What's up, pretty gang? It's your favorite nail tech Peaches back with another video for the day. It's 7:35 in the morning, bright in the morning, okay, bright and early. And today, as promised, we are gonna go ahead and discuss how I do my red bottom sets, right? And then of course how we use black acrylic. That's why y'all are here, okay? Like I always say, black acrylic is just one of them colors, hard as hell no matter what the brand is. But if you can master the application for black acrylic, baby, you that girl, and you can do anything you put your mind to, okay? So of course we're not gonna have a subscriber of the day today because we technically already had one, but I do want to make sure you're subscribed and turn them notifications on, because baby, if the notifications is off, how the hell are you gonna know when I'm on? Exactly, you won't. So child, I was really in my mouthful. So we're gonna go ahead and start prepped and primed young nails on the protein bond, okay? Because y'all already know I'm a young nails girl through and through. The liquid I'm using is gonna be young nails, and the acrylic that I'm using is going to be not polished, of course, but make sure if you want this particular shade of black, make sure it is not polished black. It will be 02, because they do also have another black color. I think it might have a bit of shimmer to it. I want to say it's called like Mr. Lonely or something like that. Don't quote me, all right? I know they have more than one black, okay? So, first thing is first, you guys. I just want to say I appreciate all my subscribers. I was looking through some of my old videos, and I realized 6 months ago I had 800 subscribers. And I was watching my birthday Q&A video while I was, the one I was doing my nails. Also this red gel polish, just use any brand you like. This was a gel liner that came in a pack of 10. Y'all already know. I have no clue what this brand is. I just got it from my nail supply. And we're just gonna carefully put that on there. All right. So yeah, 6 months ago I had 800 subscribers. The other day I just had 3,000, and a few days after that 3,100. I appreciate y'all. Y'all are really messing with me. Y'all are really fucking with me. My heart goes out. The love is spread. I appreciate y'all like to the utmost, because y'all don't have to watch my videos. Y'all don't even have to care about what I do, okay, like at all. So definitely I appreciate y'all, okay? Appreciate that. Even those who ain't subscribed, all right, because there's a whole lot of y'all that watch that ain't subscribed. I do hope one day you guys decide to subscribe. Thank you. Okay, so as you guys can see, there ain't no real rhyme or reason to how I do this. I used to do red bottoms with red acrylic. That is a no-go. Not only does it take a lot longer, but it is a lot harder to hide the red on the sides, and the color peeks through whatever you're doing way more, okay? So I'm just making sure that I cover the color of the tip. I recommend using clear tips for this. I've done it with natural tips, and honestly the bottom, it don't look as red. And that was just something that I used to do because, like, oh, it doesn't matter. No, it does matter. Yeah, it's okay if the polish gets on the natural nail a little bit. Honestly, it doesn't make a difference. And when you go ahead and you're done, make sure that there's no streaks, because you'll be able to see through. Like, make sure all the tip is covered. And honestly, that's pretty much it. I did not decide to do 2 layers. I did only 1 layer, and because we're using black acrylic, I just left it at the red layer. Now I will say I haven't done the method where you put white polish on top, but I actually would probably like recommend that. Like if you're using a light color, or like white pastel, something like that, I would actually recommend that you do a very thin coat of white, because you want to make sure that the red doesn't peek through too much. And I have been in situations where the red has kind of tinted the color of the acrylic that you use, and sometimes it's not noticeable, but honestly sometimes it is, like just at the tips. So I'm basically checking to make sure that the underneaths are really clean before I go ahead and cure it. And this only cures for 1 minute. And so when I do the other hand, I'm making sure that I'm using just as much coating, and then just making sure that we take our time, but you also don't want to waste too much time doing this. But with this client, she was actually my only client for the day, so I was able to work at a comfortable pace, which is why this video was so long. Like, you will see, working with black acrylic, you already need to slow down your pace. But like I said, she was my only client for the day, so I was able to really just kind of take my time and show you guys what I typically do when I use black acrylic. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, I really want to find a gelish red polish, but I feel like the shade of red that I want is actually sold out. Well, I don't feel like it. I went to the store the other day and it was sold out. So I'm like, damn. I don't want to, like, I really love this shade of red. I really love the consistency of this red. It's just, to get it again, I'd have to buy another pack of 70. I mean, not another pack of 70. I'd have to buy like another pack of 15 of these liners for $70, and I don't even use all of them. I just use some of them. So I don't know if it's worth it, you know. So of course I wipe the sides, and boop, you see that little mess? We need to make sure that it's gone, okay? Because I don't want it to stay there forever, so at least wipe it away some. As long as the underneaths are clean, that's what you're looking for, because we want a clean result regardless. And then I go ahead and top coat it. You guys, if you don't know, if you lay down anything before you are going to encapsulate it or cover it with anything, top coat it first. Like, for example, if you're using certain sequins, people always ask me like, oh, well, the monomer, it like gets rid of the coating, so now the gold is not the right color, or oh, the silver, the holographic disc came off the sequin. Top coat it. That's all you got to do. It's like literally, I don't even think I've seen this anywhere. I think it just dawned on me one day, like, I wonder if I top coat it, because, you know, liquid don't get rid of top coat, because when you do 3D flowers, it, you know, it's not doing no harm. So I was like, okay, boom. So that's my own little hack, my tip for you guys. So you guys can see, this black is the darkest black acrylic I have literally ever seen. That's why I love it so much. But when I put the black down, I'm gonna make sure it's not too runny, right, but also not too stiff, because black is so tricky. You need to make sure that you have the thickness there of the bead, and also the reason why you want that thickness there is so when you do smush the bead down some, you see how the sidewalls are covered? That's what you want. And you want to make sure with taking the tip of the bead down, because it can get trapped underneath, and we don't want any black on the bottoms, okay? Because it's supposed to be red bottoms, not, you know, red and black bottoms, if you see what I'm saying. So you want to make sure you're keeping that shape, but also that you're keeping it clean underneath. And this is what makes red bottoms so tricky, because to be honest with you, I have seen red bottoms that look a mess, and honey, it look a mess, okay? I think this is what people do choose to do when they do red bottoms. You can use a red tip. Like, I don't know, straight tips come colored, but if y'all know, like, curved tips, some people come colored. So you can use that method if you're uncomfortable with this, or if you just want something quick. I prefer to just do it like this. I feel like it's really cool to see the transformation, and clients enjoy it as well. And honestly, it's really not that difficult once you get the hang of it. So you can see I pretty much go under with the cuticle pusher, and I will, any acrylic that gets stuck under there in any way, I will go ahead and scrape at it, because another thing about black is it stains everything. So not only does it stain your brush, but as soon as you use that brush to touch something else, you're going to inevitably stain something. So the more you use your brush to try and get the black acrylic from underneath, it might actually make it worse. So this is why you see me using a cuticle pusher or my finger, because I want to make sure. And this is really the real reason why it took me 20 minutes to do this hand, especially because I have a camera in my face. And the other hand was actually way quicker. I want to say the other hand was probably like 12 minutes or so. And then, so watch, when we get into the cuticle area, you can see the type of bead that I use. Like I said, you're gonna have to work with your powder to liquid ratio, but I like my ratio to be just like kind of like softened butter in a way. Like if you press it, it's gonna move, but if not, it will stay still, because I really need to get that black into them cuticle areas, okay? Because one thing about black, if you don't get it deep enough into the cuticle area, right, when you file, it's going to file the fuck away. And I'm telling you this right now because I love you. Don't nobody want to see no doggone nails with empty cuticles, okay, that look like we needed to fill. And it's been one day, all right? Like I said, I'm telling you out of love, but it's gonna be tough love, all right? So you guys can see the structure is there. Everything is covered. You just really want to make sure that you're doubling down on those cuticle areas, which is why you're going to often see me, even though the cuticles look together, you're going to see me put a little bit of extra product down in there, because it makes a difference. Okay, so if you guys remember seeing me do the video of, hey, this is how I work with neons, same technique in the cuticle areas, because with neon colors and bright colors, it's the same thing that happens. You're gonna have to put, like, I don't even want to say an excess of product in the cuticles, but it's push it to where it almost looks like it's gonna flood, and then clean up anything that looks like flooding, if that makes sense from what you guys just saw. Because if not, I'm telling you right now, it ain't gonna go well. You're gonna be struggling, okay? Because that's the hardest thing about black is the staining and the consistency, okay? Which is why you see me doing a large bead, because once I start pushing on it, look how it kind of just distributes itself, right? So once I push on it, it widens out, but I need that because I want every area covered, okay? You see how the sidewalls of the nail, like, yeah, I don't even know how much more to explain that, you guys. I kind of had a brain fart. It's like early, as I said, but okay, yeah, you see how like the sides of the nail is completely covered with black. If I did not squish that bead, right, have such a big bead to squish it, it would not cover the sidewalls and you'd see red on the sides, all right? And you can also see that although it looked like such a big bead, once it flattened out, it's actually way flatter than what it looked like. And that's the tricky thing about black, and why it's one of those colors that is so tricky to use, is because it's like a trick of the eye, right? You feel like, oh wow, I'm picking up so much product, but it's really not a lot of product because of the consistency of the product, right? So you see little areas like this. Like I said, some stuff you're not going to be able to use your brush to get rid of. Some stuff you're going to have to use your finger or a cuticle pusher, because the way the way black dries down can be difficult to work with. Like, it will still be enough that, hey, I can move it, except for you just can't manipulate it just with your brush alone, okay? So this is why I'm still patting and tapping and everything, because I want to make sure the shape is as good as possible. Do you understand? When I say as good as possible, I mean it, because later on when we go to file, you're going to realize, wow, black does file off pretty quickly, okay? So it really is just like a balance between having enough product to cover the nail and to give that shape and that structure, but not stain everything and not blood the cuticles, all right? It's such a delicate balance. So you guys can see how much I'm putting in the cuticle area, like, you know, pushing it in, and I'm letting it find its way. I'm just tapping it, and I'm letting the rest kind of like sit for a second, so that way it can build up that thickness, not that thickness, but it can build up that polymerization, right? So the bead can stiffen up, and so that way I can just swipe around the edges, because I still need the apex. If you go ahead and start patting and swiping at this black acrylic too soon, what's going to happen is your apex is going to kind of fall. It's the equivalent of like baking a cake or taking a cake out or a souffle or whatever, and you talk a little bit too loud and the whole thing falls after all that work. It's pretty much similar concept. Like, you would rather have it slightly too stiff than too wet, because if your beads are too wet, I'm going to tell you right now, out of love, once again, I love you, I love y'all, but if your beads are too wet, you are going to have a trash, horrible time working with black acrylic. And I also want to point out, black is not a color that you should skimp on as far as price. Now, I'm not going to say the pricier the brand, the better the black acrylic, but all that glam and glitz, please just leave it alone. Just leave it the hell alone. Y'all already know how I feel about that. Especially if you're a beginner, I know it's tempting to use just really cheap products, but black is one of those colors you want to find a quality black, okay? So you see I'm looking from all sides, because I want to make sure that I have the right structure and everything like that. So I felt like I was missing a little bit down here, so that's what I went ahead and did, is went ahead and filled in any gaps. And it is very important that you look from all angles, okay? Because it's just, yeah, it's just honestly a pain if you don't. So you can notice how I'm not dipping my brush into the water very often, and that is because, once again, you don't want to work with extremely wet beads. And when you dip your brush back and forth in there, and this bead is kind of small, but I did end up draining it quite a bit. But yeah, I think I did that because I was like, dang, it's too late to grab more, but you know, at the same time, like, whatever. So I just went ahead and kept on going. But yeah, when you dip your brush back into the liquid, I think it's hard for people to realize or understand that you're not doing it just to like, oh, I just should just keep my brush wet. No, every time you dip it back in, you are kind of reactivating the acrylic, because you are upsetting the balance that you had with the liquid and the powder previously. So if I were to keep tapping into the liquid and adding it right now, it would just cause the color to continue to it will cause it to continue to stay wet, and the process of polymerization would just take longer. And for those who don't know, polymerization is the act of basically the liquid and the powder having the chemical reaction, so that way it stiffens up and hardens and turns into what we know as acrylic. Okay, so you really just want to make sure that you're using only as much liquid as you need. All right, so you can see I'm keeping my brush fairly dry, and when I'm tapping in there, I'm really only getting what I need to keep my brush pretty clean and to move the process along. So that is one of the biggest tips that I have for you. All right, also, I know a lot of people use oval brushes. You guys don't get your brushes pinched because a lot of people don't go to the nail supply. You guys just buy whatever brushes off online that people tell you about. But the squareness and the shape that I have to my brush that people ask about, that's because I pinch my brush. Okay, if you don't do this, yeah, your brush is going to stay very round and oval. It's going to affect the way that you pick up beads. It's going to affect how you use the body of your brush. And honestly, it's kind of one of the reasons that people take a long time doing nails. Okay, because with the shape of my brush, do you see how I can just use it to press and tap it in, but also the tip of my bristles are extremely flat. I would strongly consider that if you're having trouble with acrylic application period, it's probably the size and shape of your brush that you need to look into. And with colors like these that are difficult, it only makes it more difficult, because if the tip of your brush is very rounded, or almost leaning towards pointed, right, it's going to make it very difficult for you to see how I'm doing this and how I'm getting into those nooks and crannies. It's gonna make it very difficult for you to do that. But if you're comfortable with your brush that way, then that comment was not meant for you. It's only meant for people who find themselves constantly having a difficult time. Okay, so as you guys can see, I'm just keeping everything in check. Basically, we're just coloring in the lines here. All right, you can see from all angles I have a wonderfully built structure. And I'm gonna tell you right now, the color black, okay, this is my theory, right? My theory is when there are pigmented colors like this, especially the darker ones and stuff like that, they are made using white as well as pigment, because white will absorb the pigment, whereas clear will disperse it, if that makes sense. So if you put pigment with white, the white is gonna like enhance it and magnify it, but the clear is going to thin it out and disperse the pigment, unless you put an excess of it, in which then you'll get the color you're looking for. So my theory is that with these colors, why they're a little harder to work with is because they have such an amount of white acrylic to them. We all know white is a difficult color to work with, period, right? And that affects the reason why they tend to be a little bit runnier, as well as dry a little bit quicker as well. It's a very, very weird thing. But I feel like if you have quality, it makes it a little bit easier to use, because instead of all that white, like just white and pigment, I believe that clear is used within it as well. So it's mostly clear and pigment with a tad bit of white, so that way the clear is there making up most of the bead, therefore making it a lot easier to use. That's my personal theory. I know I've explained that multiple times. That's just what I believe, just based on my knowledge about acrylic and just making acrylics myself and how I make them. That's really what I think it is, which is why I suggest using a quality brand when it comes to some of these more difficult colors. Okay, so do you see how I am pretty much letting gravity do the work in such a way? I'm not a person who believes like tilt the finger all the way down, because then I feel like, well, you're not going to be able to really see what you're doing. But that's just a personal preference. I kind of do more of like a 45-degree angle, maybe 50-degree angle, versus a straight up like 85, almost 90-degree angle, just because I feel like I want gravity to help me, but I don't want gravity to do everything, because then that's how you can have problems keeping the acrylic where you want to and how you want to. Because when I put these beads on, I'm not bothering them at first. I do just an initial place it and hold it for a second, and then I'm gonna go ahead and kind of smush it a little bit to disperse the beads, so that way I can get the sides covered, So that way we're not seeing that red. And that way we have very strong sidewalls to support basically the sidewalls of our natural nail. Okay. Having the sides be thin, all that's going to do is take away from the support, because where the natural nail meet and where the tip meet, that area should not be extremely thin. You want some support to that. You want some substance to that, so that way you do not have random breakage within your nails. Okay. And honestly, if you feel like something doesn't look right, 9 out of 10 times it probably is not. Like, go with your instinct and trust your gut. If it's something that you know, hey, I'm not going to be able to fix this later, or hey, as I'm filing, it's just going to get worse, go ahead and just fix it now. You want these nails to be as applicated as possible, so that way when you go ahead and do your shaping and stuff, you don't have to do too much, because once again, black acrylic files off extremely easily. Like, it's honestly pretty crazy. You guys, I'm sorry, I'm hella tired. After I babysat last night, I came home, I did some more editing, and then I pretty much fell asleep, but I only for like so many hours, and then I woke up and now I'm doing this, so I gotta catch the freak up, wake up. So a really big tip of avoiding staining the skin is really trying to clean your brush well, like as you're doing the acrylic. And I don't mean like, oh, okay, let me go and clean my brush with brush cleaner or whatever. No. This is going to be solely based on how you handle the acrylic. Like, when you lay the acrylic down, does it come off clean? Like, does it come off of your brush clean? As you guys have seen, the bead has come off intact and in full, or is there, stuff left over? When you wipe your brush on the paper towel, are you wiping it good enough, or are you just kind of haphazardly doing it? And that, like, those personal techniques and stuff, that's what's going to keep you from making such a mess. Okay. But then once again, some acrylics do transfer quite a bit. So you see when I lay my beads down, you can see it comes off my brush very, very cleanly, which means I have a good amount of liquid to powder ratio. If when your bead comes off and it's just like very liquidy all over the place, it's like on your brush, a little bit, that means you got too much liquid. Now, if you try and set the bead down and the bead kind of breaks, like some of it is on your brush, the rest is kind of not moving, it's very stiff, that means you have too much powder. So when you lay your beads down, it's okay for a little bit of acrylic to come off on the brush, but when you do wipe your brush on the paper towel, it should come off cleanly and not get stuck in your bristles. And that's what you want to look for with black, right? So like I said, we need to really make sure that we're practicing those ratios. Use every client as practice. And for the life of me, I know those mannequin hands might be helping y'all out to some degree, but if possible, practice, like, find somebody to practice on or something, because those nail hands, especially if you get the cheap ones or the $20 to $40 ones, they're not really helping you for real. And the only reason I say that is they might be helping you with design or finding out new things like that, or application with like keeping the shape. But as far as what it's like to work on a real person, cuticle work and stuff like that, you're kind of just guessing. And so if there's some things that you struggle with that a mannequin hand unfortunately is not really going to be able to help you with, just for the pure fact that mannequin hands are incredibly inaccurate, especially like the cheaper ones, they're very inaccurate to real hands. And so I feel like that's a reason why a lot of people get frustrated. They tend to, oh, I don't understand why. It's because you've been practicing on a hand whose every single fingernail is the size of thumbs. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's not realistic. You can bend it however you want. So this would be a good time to practice this on a real person with this color and not a mannequin hand. Because, ooh, child, when people move, when people do all that type of stuff, at first you be damn near sweating bullets. So you can see when I do the application, we have a texture and a consistency that I'm controlling the acrylic. The acrylic don't control me, okay? Y'all understand what I'm saying? Acrylic don't run you. I know a lot of people be like, oh, we shouldn't use acrylic because gel is easier to use. No, that just means they did not master acrylic. That means acrylic didn't work for them, right? If you want to really master acrylic, this needs to be something that you are working with consistently and constantly, because there's nobody's tutorials, even mine, nobody's tutorials or videos that can perfectly show you how you need to work with this stuff. Because depending on the brand that you use for the liquid, for the powder, how you hold your hand, how you hold your brush, what type of brush that you have, every little thing makes a difference, and every difference is different for everybody. Okay, I don't know how much I can stress that enough. I'm just here to share my experiences. I'm here to share the way I do things, and hopefully these tips will help everybody in some type of way. But at the end of the day, can't nobody make any difference except for you. Okay, this is why I say, when you guys ask me certain questions, or I see people ask like, well, how do you do this, and how do I do this, and can you tell me this brand, y'all got to start researching for yourself. Sometimes y'all got to start practicing for yourself, because a lot of people don't understand that, like, no matter what I use, even if you got every identical thing, it's not going to be the same. Me and you don't got the same hands. We might not even hold the brush the same. So just, you guys, I want you to get out of the habit of going to these big YouTubers and stuff and trying to get every piece of information they know, because to be honest, that's not what's going to help you. What's going to help you is you taking the time to practice and using your critical thinking to make 2 and 2 make sense for you personally. All right, like I say, I always say that with love, because, you know, pretty gang, I mess with y'all, come on. So here is the application. You can see very clean, very, very neat, very crispy already. And so we're about to go into the filing routine. Now, when you file this stuff, this right here is where it goes wrong. First of all, you need to find a balance between low speed, but, you know, enough power in that low speed. Because if you go on too high of a speed, like for example, people talking about they be using 10,000 RPMs, which to me, that is insane. Like, that's very, very a lot in my opinion. But that's gonna flake this right the hell off, especially if you only did like a little thin dainty bead in the cuticle area. This is why I said double down a little bit in the amount of acrylic you use. You know, stay with this the structure still, so that way it's not all humped and bumped up. But because we need to file around the cuticle area, and we need to make sure that this is nice and flush, that's why you see me taking breaks in between. Not because the client is in any pain, you know, or there's like any hot spots per se, but it's simply just because of the fact that I don't want to flake nothing off. Okay, so I'm delicately filing around those edges and the tip, because keep in mind, any filing or buffing that goes on underneath the tip, you will be able to see that on the red, unfortunately. Okay, so please be careful of that. And then of course, like I said, we're sticking with the same format of how we normally file in a finished file with, you know, sealing the cuticles, but we're just being more careful. And the reason why is because, once again, we don't want any of this to flake off. Now, I will say, like I said, damn, I'm starting to get tired. But yeah, the speed needs to be low enough that it's not gonna cause anything to flake, but it needs to be high enough that it's gonna actually do something. Because for whatever reason, certain colors, once they dry, they are there. Okay, the black is there. It does not look like they're very thick, but the black is there, and it can be difficult to file through if you're not careful. Okay, so now we got this first step out the way. They already look good, right? And so we're gonna make sure that we file them nice and crispy. Okay, now with this part, this is where it gets tricky, because if you do too much filing on the sides, you are gonna see that red peek through, and then you're gonna be shook like, oh my gosh. So what I decided to do was gently file, and I wasn't gonna file more than I needed to, you know, of course, smooth out the top. And that's another thing, you want the tops to be very smooth on the surface, because that's another thing that could be a pain in your behind if you're not careful. But I'm trying to file just only what I need, because I do not want to deal with all that red showing on the sides. But in a minute I'll get ready and tell you what I decide to do in this instance, because there was a little bit of red that peeked through, but I was like, damn, I'm gonna have to let it peek through because I need this to be shaped. You know what I'm saying? So you can see I'm just taking my time extra while using this color. So here we go. I'm really making sure that I am taking my time, really looking like, okay, what actually needs to be filed here and what's already together. And this is why I say, make sure your application is very much applicated before you go ahead and start doing stuff like this. So far you guys have seen me do the application, the shaping and stuff like that. And I hope this is really helping you out, especially using black acrylic. This same concept applies to like dark blues, because man, that's another color that could be a pain in my backside, because it's like dark blue is not necessarily all the way as dark as black, but it has the same tendencies. Depending, and the darker the blue, the harder it is to work with, because that's the closer to black that it gets, you know. But yeah, all in all, you want to make sure that everything is shaped, everything is together, because don't nobody want to look at a red bottom set that ain't together. Like, you know what I'm saying? That just make it look tacky, and we do not want to look tacky. So you guys see me, of course, I am measuring out each nail to itself, and later on when I'm done with this hand, I will measure the hands against each other and stuff, because I'm a person, I need these nails to be nice and even out. Now, one thing I will say is, while you're filing and evening out all the nails, just make sure that you're not focused on that one hand. Like, if two nails are off by like a tiny smidge, you might just want to leave it, because sometimes the nail that might be a little bit longer is actually the correct length when you compare it against the other hand. So you want to leave a little room to be able to compare both hands again. I will say that, because yeah, sometimes there might be a nail that you accidentally cut a little too short, or you just filed it a little extra. So you see on the thumb how that red is peeking through. So what I actually end up doing for those little peaks of red, that black gelish polish that I have, I went ahead and painted the sides, like just as is. Like when she came back after washing her hands, I just went ahead and painted the sides, because I was like, okay, when I put top coat on, both of these are super duper dark. Now this is a good method to use, like if you were to do red bottoms and you have like a similar color nude or something, but don't be doing that if the color of the polish and the color of the acrylic is not pretty much exactly the same. Otherwise it's gonna look like you drew on it, you know what I'm saying? But in this case, because both are like super duper dark, it's not gonna make a difference. Okay, so I went ahead, I wanted to make sure, like, okay, if I don't need to color on it, I'm not going to. But look at that thumb, child. Look at y'all saw the structure from the side. Beautiful, beautiful. So you guys, I'm trying to get a lot of content out. My goal is to gain another, like, I guess 1,800 subscribers before the year is out. So wish me luck on that. And this is the shape. Like, come on, give it to me. Like, give it all. Give it all. Okay, so she's done washing her hands. I already colored them black on the sides, and now I'm just top coating. And this is when it really kicks in. Even she was like, damn, I didn't realize that this black was so black. I said, look, mamas, this is the darkest black acrylic I have ever used in my life, and honestly, I'm completely satisfied. It's really crazy, because when you first use it, it looks this dark, but then as it dries down and you file, you kind of forget how dark it is. And that's why I really wanted to top coat on camera, because I'm like, yeah, exactly, like, just look. I absolutely love this color. So yeah, like I was saying, I really want to continue pushing out a lot of content. I want to grow. Like I said earlier, 6 months ago, you know, looking at old videos, and I was still trying to hit 1,000, you know, and now I've way surpassed that, and I cannot thank you guys enough for all the support. I want to be sure that I'm able to continue to pump out content for you guys, and to just work hard to get it done, because, you know, I love educating. And if you're a fan of being educated, please don't forget to follow me on my Instagram at Nailsbyprettyface, because y'all, that is y'all. Okay, I've done some posting recently on a previous experience, and yeah, you're not gonna want to miss that. Okay, so pretty much this is it. You guys see it. I'm not top coating the underneath. I remember years ago when people did red bottoms, they used to top coat the underneath. It ain't no point in doing that, honestly. I feel like it don't last, so it's like, you kind of wasting time with that. But you know, red bottoms don't have to be red. That's another thing. You can do any color you want, and the same method will work. Okay, so I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you're ready to subscribe, don't forget to hit subscribe. Turn your notifications on, okay, because you don't want to keep missing videos, you see, because I'm trying to pump out the content and you don't want to miss that. Once again, here is the final look. Okay, red bottom, all right. And of course, you guys already know, I will see you guys in the next one.